Hey, what's going on everybody? Today is Tuesday, August 4th, and I'm going to be talking about the EIDL Loan Collateral and what that means and what can happen and how it affects you and all that jazz. All right, just as a quick background, if you received the EIDL loan, if your loan was under $25,000, then you don't have to enter in any collateral agreement with the SBA, which is good. Okay, so if your loan is under $25,000, you don't really have to worry about most of the stuff I'm going to talk about. If your loan is over $25,001, then you are required to enter into a collateral agreement with the SBA. And I'll let you know what that means here in a sec. And then if your loan is actually over $200,000, then you also have to be a personal guarantee on the loan. Now, the majority of loans, okay, the majority of loans out there are under $200,000 because the SBA did impose a $150,000 cap on these loans. But there were some very, very early on that did make it by before that cap was imposed. So there are some loans out there that are over $200,000, okay? So what does it mean to have a collateral agreement with the SBA? It means that if you happen to default on the loan, you couldn't pay it, or you met one of the provisions that cause you to default, then that means the SBA can seize your assets, your qualifying assets, and use it to satisfy the amount due on the loan. Obviously, the amount due will be due immediately, and you'd be best to pay it off in cash, but if you can't, then if you have collateral, assets under collateral, then they can just take your assets, sell it, liquidate it, lease it, rent it, whatever they have to do to get the money to satisfy your loan. Okay, so that's what that means. One question I get asked a lot is whether or not the SBA can take your business assets or your personal assets or both. Okay, so this all depends on how your business is structured and how you applied for the loan. Okay, so if you applied for the loan as an EIN, if you have an LLC, a corporation, a partnership, whatever that is, and you apply using your EIN, then the loan is strictly held to your business. That includes your business assets, okay? As long as you're operating your business within the confines of its formalities and how it should be operated, then there should be no, and there's no commingling between your business and personal stuff, then SBA only has access to your business assets. If you applied as a sole proprietor or independent contractor using your social security number, then things are a little bit different because you don't have a separate entity, you just have your social security number. That means that the SBA can come after and seize your personal assets. Now, the most common things here, the most common professions here that would be in this scenario are most likely Uber, Lyft drivers, or those delivery drivers, or if you're just starting out as your business and you didn't register for an LLC or something like that. That means that your personal assets would be under fire if you defaulted on the loan. Remember, that's only if your loan was over $25,000. If your loan is under $25,000 and you default on the loan, they can't take your collateral. They can likely issue a judgment against you. They can file a suit for a judgment against you to make sure you pay, but they can't seize any of your assets. Another question I get asked a lot is whether or not this loan will affect your credit. Again, this depends on whether or not you applied for the loan using your EIN or your social security number. If you apply using your EIN and your loan is under $200,000, then the only way this loan would affect your credit is the initial credit pull that the SBA did in order to qualify you for the loan. Other than that, it should not appear on your credit report because it's purely a business loan. If your loan was over $200,000, it still likely won't appear in your credit report, but if you did default, since you are a personal guarantor on the loan now, then the SBA can send you personally to collections in order to collect on the loan, and that would affect your credit. Now, if you apply for the loan using your social security number, then this loan may likely be on your credit report because it's reported to your social, there's no separate entity there, so that will appear as a debt or a credit account on your credit report. And that can affect certain things. One popular question I get is, will it affect buying a house? If you applied with your social and it appears on your credit report as a debt, then yes, it can affect your debt to income ratio when you're applying for a mortgage on your house. Now, if you applied as a business, as an EIN, then this should not affect you unless your lender is very picky about who runs your credit report and stuff, but that's highly unlikely. So if you applied as a business, it won't affect you. Apply as a social security number, then it should appear on your credit report as debt and it will affect your debt to income ratio. Now, if you enter this collateral agreement, let's say your loan is over $25,000 and you enter this collateral agreement, there is a provision in the loan contract that says that you cannot sell your assets without prior consent of the SBA. And when it talks about assets, it means personal assets. I know the language is confusing. Saying personal assets doesn't mean like your actual personal assets, like not my house, not my car. Personal assets is a term used for like small assets that's like not real property, not real estate. So it could be like business desk, business equipment, business vehicle if you have it, inventory, that kind of thing. Those are considered personal assets, even though they're not really like my personal assets. You know, if they belong to the business and it's not real estate, then that would be considered a personal asset. So when you enter into a collateral agreement, in the contract, it states that you cannot sell your personal assets without prior consent of the SBA. The only thing that you can sell without receiving prior consent is your inventory that you obviously need to sell to run your business. But any other thing, like if you have equipment, business vehicles, furnitures and fixtures and stuff like that, then technically you can't sell that without prior consent of the SBA. There is no asset listing that the SBA forces you to fill out. So their clause is pretty general and widespread, you know, but at the same time, they don't know what assets you have. You get what I'm saying? Legally, you can't sell your assets without prior consent of the SBA. And this is business assets if you applied for the EIN. If you apply with your social, again, it's a little different. If you're an Uber and Lyft driver and your loan was greater than $25,000 and you have a car and you need to sell your car, then technically you need to get prior consent, written consent from the SBA before you can do that. That's something to keep in mind, okay? And again, if you apply for this loan personally, they can't use your home as collateral because that's real property. That's not personal property. So what happens if your business closes? If you took out an SBA loan, EIDL loan, and your business closes, what would happen then? If you have to close your business or sell your business or any of that stuff or transfer ownership, that meets the definition of a default according to the loan documents. So when that happens, then all the money that you borrowed would be due. And if you borrowed more than $25K and you entered into a collateral agreement with the SBA, then the SBA has a right to your assets, your personal property, not your real property. So they can seize your assets, your business assets, in order to sell, release, rent, whatever they have to do to satisfy your loan if you cannot pay. But just know that if you sell your business, if you close your business, or if you change your ownership of your business, then technically that creates a defaulting event. On top of collecting your collateral, they can file a suit against your business or you, depending on how you applied, to issue a judgment against you. Really consider what you're doing before you close your business. This is gonna be, the EIDL loans can be like an annoying parent that's gonna be kind of nagging at you every time you make like a freaking business decision. So just consider that. This is serious. I recommend you pay off your EIDL loan as soon as possible, as soon as you can. Okay, don't take the whole 30 years to pay it off because you're gonna be locked into this shitty contract for a long time. Now granted, the terms are really good. 30 years, 3.75% interest, that's nice, but then you kind of don't want all this other baggage around it for too long. That's my opinion. So the last thing is, what happens if you misuse your EIDL funds? Like you spend it outside of the provisions of the EIDL, like you use it and you invested in stocks or something. Or if you took the loan and you bought a house, you know, what could happen? Your loan would default. If the SBA finds out, it would be under default, so it would be due back immediately. And the penalty for misusing your EIDL funds is a 1.5 times penalty. So if you had $100,000 borrowed and you used it as a down payment for a new home and the SBA finds out about it, that means you have to owe back $150,000 as a penalty. So don't misuse your funds. I know it's unlikely the SBA will ever find out anything, but you just don't want to put yourself at risk because that's a really shitty risk to put yourself in. I mean, these funds are supposed to be used for emergency purposes during a crisis. And if you're using it to buy a home, you're kind of taking money away from people who need it. Just don't misuse the funds. Use them as they are intended to. And that's all I got for today. If you enjoy the content of this video, please hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. And also, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Stay up to date with what's going on with the pandemic. I'll see you guys tomorrow and take care.